On the morning of December 4th, 2024, a man in a hooded jacket stepped out from behind a parked car on 54th Street in Midtown Manhattan. He raised a silenced pistol and shot Brian Thompson, the chief executive of UnitedHealthcare, 3 times in the back. Thompson was walking into the Hilton Hotel for his company's annual investor conference. He died on the sidewalk. Within hours, the suspected shooter, a 26-year-old man named Luigi Mangione, would become something almost no killer in modern American history had ever become. He became a folk hero. Millions of Americans, rather than condemning the murder of a Fortune 500 executive, flooded the internet with something closer to celebration. To understand why, you have to understand the company Brian Thompson ran. UnitedHealthcare is the largest health insurance company in the United States. It covers roughly 50 million Americans, and its parent company, UnitedHealth Group, pulls in $371 billion in annual revenue, making it the 5th largest company in the country. But what truly defined the company was not its size. It was its reputation. To many of the people who paid into it every month, UnitedHealthcare was not an insurer at all. It was a wall between them and the care their doctor said they needed, and the way that wall was built is one of the darkest stories in modern American business. To understand how it got there, you have to start with a simple idea. A health insurance company makes money in 2 ways. It collects premiums, and it pays out as little as possible in claims. Every dollar it refuses to pay is a dollar that flows to shareholders. In most industries, a company that aggressively refused to deliver its product would lose customers overnight. But health insurance in America is unusual. Most people get it through their employer. They do not choose it, and they cannot easily switch. And when they finally need it, they are often too sick, too scared, or too exhausted to fight back. UnitedHealthcare understood this better than anyone. Over the last decade, it built an entire infrastructure around saying no. The most revealing part of that infrastructure was a piece of software called NH-Predict. This was an artificial intelligence algorithm UnitedHealthcare used to decide how long elderly patients on Medicare Advantage plans should stay in rehabilitation facilities after strokes, surgeries, and serious falls. Medicare Advantage was supposed to be the humane alternative to traditional Medicare, a privately managed version that would deliver better care more efficiently. In 2023, a Stat News investigation revealed something stunning. When patients or their doctors appealed the decisions NH-Predict made, the algorithm was overturned roughly 90% of the time. In other words, it was wrong 9 times out of 10, and yet the company kept using it, because being wrong was not a bug. Being wrong was the point. The denials cut costs even when they were eventually overturned because most patients never appealed. They gave up, they checked out of rehab too early, they went home to families who did not know how to care for them. Some of them died. Then came the prior authorization numbers. Every insurer requires doctors to get approval before performing certain procedures, but no major company denied them like UnitedHealthcare did. Its prior authorization denial rate was around 32%. That was 2 to 3 times the industry average. For the patients behind those numbers, the cost was not abstract. There was the teenage girl with a rare form of cancer whose family was told the chemotherapy her oncologist prescribed was not medically necessary. There was the veteran denied follow-up care after a stroke. There was the woman whose emergency room visit for a suspected heart attack was retroactively classified as non-urgent, leaving her with a bill larger than her annual salary. Social media had been filling with stories like these for years. Every denied claim became a post. Every post became a reminder that the person typing it was not alone. And while this was happening, the money was flowing upward. UnitedHealth Group was generating around $23 billion in profit every single year. Brian Thompson, the man running the insurance arm, was taking home roughly $10 million in annual compensation. The company's stock had nearly quadrupled over the previous decade. Wall Street loved UnitedHealthcare precisely because it was ruthless. Every quarter, it found new ways to pay less and charge more. And every quarter, the executives who ran it were rewarded. When Thompson was killed on that Manhattan sidewalk, the shooter had reportedly written 3 words on the bullet casings: delay, deny, depose. These were the terms industry critics had been using for years to describe the strategy they believed companies like UnitedHealthcare used against sick people. Delay the claim, deny the claim, depose the customer if they dared to sue. The message was impossible to miss. What happened in the days after the shooting shocked the country almost as much as the shooting itself. On social media, the reaction was not grief, it was stories. Tens of thousands of Americans poured out their own experiences with denied claims. A mother whose son died waiting for approval on a transplant. A father whose daughter lost a leg because physical therapy was cut off too early. A young woman who described receiving a denial letter the same week she received a cancer diagnosis. Polls showed that roughly 40% of Americans had a denied claim story of their own, and for a brief and uncomfortable moment, the entire country seemed to be telling them all at once. When Luigi Mangione was arrested 5 days later at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania, strangers began donating to his legal defense fund. Merchandise appeared online. His face was printed on t-shirts. Look-alike contests were held in public squares. Comment sections under news articles about the killing were so flooded with stories of denied care that major outlets had to turn commenting off entirely. None of this was normal. None of it was healthy, but it was a measure of just how much anger had been building against an industry that had spent decades treating denial as a business strategy. UnitedHealthcare tried to respond. The company quickly removed photographs of its executives from its website. Security details were expanded across the industry. Some executives began working from home. And for the first time in years, the leaders of America's biggest insurers found themselves dragged in front of Congress to explain what their algorithms were actually doing. Lawmakers from both parties pressed them on NH-Predict, on prior authorization rates, on the widening gap between what patients paid and what they received. The hearings produced dramatic footage. They produced almost no action. A handful of state legislatures introduced bills to restrict artificial intelligence-based denials. A few lawsuits moved forward, including one from the family of a deceased nursing home patient in Minnesota. But at the federal level, the industry's lobbyists did what they always did. They slowed things down. They proposed voluntary reforms. They promised to do better. And the machinery that had defined UnitedHealthcare for 2 decades kept running, quarter after quarter, denial after denial. Brian Thompson did not build the system. He inherited it. He refined it. He profited from it. But the structure was bigger than any one executive, and that is the uncomfortable truth the country was left to sit with in the weeks after his death. Killing a chief executive does not reform a system. It does not bring back a child denied chemotherapy or a veteran denied care. What it revealed, though, was the depth of a grievance the American political system had spent decades pretending was not there. Tens of millions of people had been quietly absorbing the cost of a business model built on saying no. And when the wall between them and their care was finally named out loud, carved into the casings of a murder weapon, the country recognized itself in the words, delay, deny, depose. That is the dark story of UnitedHealthcare, a company that became America's largest insurer by becoming its most efficient gatekeeper, and in doing so, it quietly built one of the most hated institutions in modern American life.